Have you ever heard someone say, you need to stop eating processed foods? It might make you think that meant pretty much anything that came in a packet was bad. But here's the thing. Not all processed foods are ultra-processed, and not all processed foods is something that you need to avoid. So today, I want to clear up the confusion between processed and ultra-processed foods and answer the question I think that a lot of us have. Is all processed foods actually bad for you? Let's start with the word processed. Because technically, processing simply means that something has been changed from its original form. And when you think about it, we process foods all the time. So let's start with an apple. If I wash it, then I cut it up and I put it in a bowl, well, I've processed it. If I cook vegetables, I've processed them. If I freeze some fruit, I've processed that. And obviously, none of those things suddenly turn healthy foods into unhealthy foods. So the word processed by itself doesn't really tell us whether the food is good or bad. The fact is, some type of processing can make food safer, more convenient, or easier to eat. For example, milk is processed, yogurt is processed, cheese is processed, frozen vegetables are processed, tinned beans and tomatoes are processed, whole grain bread is processed, and things like cooking, freezing, drying, and fermenting have been around for generations. So processing isn't the enemy. The important question is, what has actually been done to the food? This is where things get a little different. Ultra-processed foods are generally industrial formulations made using multiple ingredients and processing techniques. And they often contain things that you wouldn't normally have sitting in your kitchen cupboards. These things might include flavorings, colorings, emulsifiers, sweeteners, and other additives. And many ultra-processed foods are designed to be extremely convenient and extremely appealing. Think about things like some packaged snacks, confectionery, sugary drinks, instant products, and many ready-to-eat foods. But there's another important point here. Not every food containing an additive is automatically ultra-processed. That's why simply looking for scary-sounding ingredients isn't enough. The overall food and how it's made really do matter. When I'm looking at food, now I don't ask, has this been processed? Definitely not. Because if I did, I'd have to eliminate an enormous amount of perfectly reasonable food. Instead, I ask, how far has this food moved from its original form, and what has been done to it? An apple that's been cut up and washed is pretty close to its original form. Frozen vegetables, still recognizably vegetables. A tin of chickpeas, still chickpeas, with some processing to make them convenient and safe. But something that has been heavily reformulated into a product containing a long list of ingredients designed primarily for convenience, flavor, and shelf life, that's where I start paying attention. So, is all processed foods bad? No, absolutely not. And I think this is really important. If you're trying to improve your diet, you don't need to walk into your kitchen and throw away everything that comes in a packet. That, frankly, would be ridiculous. Frozen vegetables can be incredibly useful. Tinned beans can make a healthy meal much easier. Plain yogurt can be convenient. Whole grain bread can be part of a healthy diet. And sometimes processing actually helps us eat better because it makes nutritious foods cheaper, easier to store, and easier to prepare. For me, the big change wasn't I'm never going to eat processed foods again. It was more about being aware of how much my diet was made of ultra-processed foods. And that was a completely different way of looking at food. Instead of obsessing over whether something had been processed, I started asking myself a question. Or I started asking, can I eat foods that look more like what they came from? More vegetables, more fruits, more beans and pulses, more nuts, more whole grains, more foods that I can actually recognize. And then when I do find something that is packaged, I can look at the ingredients and make a more informed choice. Here's something I really want to make clear. This isn't about being perfect. I'm definitely not sitting here saying I've suddenly discovered some magical way of eating where I never eat anything processed. That, frankly, is not real life. We're busy, we have families, we work. Sometimes convenience matters. And sometimes you just want something because you like it. The goal, at least for me, is to make better choices more often. Not to create another set of food rules that make eating stressful. So, if you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Processed doesn't automatically mean bad. Processing is simply something that we do to food. The bigger question is, what kind of processing has taken place and what the finished food actually contains. And when it comes to ultra-processed foods, that's where I think it is worth becoming more aware of how much we are eating. Because there is a big difference between the two. This food has been processed, and this is an ultra-processed product that makes up a large part of my diet. Those aren't the same thing. Since changing the way I look at food, I've realized that healthy eating isn't really about finding the perfect diet. For me, it's about understanding what I'm actually eating and making better choices when I can. And honestly, once you understand the difference between processed and ultra-processed foods, labels start making a whole lot more sense. If you're on your own health reset, I would love it if you subscribe. I'm learning about nutrition, sharing what I discover, and talking honestly about what's working for me. Remember, one day, one meal, one choice. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.